Okay. Ow! Oh. Okay, we're gonna read some Martian today. I gotta find where okay, yeah. I think we stopped at, yes, chapter 15. So we stopped before chapter 15. We're gonna, continue on chapter 15 today. Let's go. Chapter 15. 812. Watney. Test. 825. JPL. Received. You gave us quite a scare there. Thanks for the AOK message. Our analysis of satellite imagery shows a complete detachment of Airlock 1. Is that correct? What's your status? 839. Watney. If by detachment you mean shot me out like a cannon, then yeah. Minor cut on my forehead. Had some issues with my EVA suit. I'll explain later. I patched up the hob and repressurized it. Main air tanks were intact. I just got power back online. The farm is dead. I've recovered as many potatoes as I could and stored them outside. I count 1841. That will last me 184 days. Including the remaining mission rations, I'll start starving on Sol 584. 852. JPL. Yeah, we figured. We're working on solutions to the food issue. What's the status of the Hob systems? 905. Watney. Primary air and water tanks were unharmed. The rover, Solar Way, and Pathfinder were out of the blast range. I'll run diagnostics on the Hob systems while I wait for your next reply. By the way, who am I talking to? 918. JPL. Venkat Kapoor in Houston. Pasadena relays my messages. I'm going to handle all direct communication with you from now on. Check the oxygenator and water reclaimer first. They're the most important. 931. Watney. Duh. Oxygenator functioning perfectly. Water reclaimer is completely offline. Best guess is water froze up inside and burst some tubing. I'm sure I can fix it. The Hob's main computer is also functioning without any problems. Any idea what caused the Hob to blow up? 944. JPL. Best guess is fatigue on the canvas near Airlock 1. The pressurization cycle stressed it until it failed. From now on, alternate Airlock 2 and 3 for all EVAs. Also, we'll be getting you a checklist and procedures for a full canvas exam. 957. Watney. Yay, I get to stare at a wall for several hours. Let me know if you come up with a way for me to not starve. 1011. JPL. Well do. And then there's a break. And then we're into prose. We're into prose? Oh no. It's Sol 122, Bruce said. We have until Sol 584 to get a probe to Mars. That's 462 sols, which is 475 days. The assembled department heads of JPL furrowed their brows and rubbed their eyes. He stood from his chair. The positions of Earth and Mars aren't ideal. The trip will take 414 days. Mounting the probe to the booster and dealing with inspections will take 13 days. That leaves us with just 48 days to make this probe. Sounds of whispered exasperation filled the room. It's a whole new ballgame, Bruce continued. Our focus is food. Anything else is a luxury. We don't have time to make a powered descent lander. It'll have to be a tumbler, so we can't put anything delicate inside. Say goodbye to all the other crap we'd planned to send. Where's the booster coming from? Asked Norm Toshi, who was in charge of the re-entry process. The Eagle Eye 3 Saturn probe, Bruce said. It was scheduled to launch next month. NASA put it on hold so we can have the booster. I bet the Eagle Eye team was mad about that, Norm said. I'm sure they were, Bruce said, but it's the only booster we have that's big enough. Which brings me to my next point. We only get one shot at this. If we fail, Mark Watney dies. He looked around that room and let the sink in. he opened the door and he let the sink in. We do have some things going for us, he finally said. We have some of the parts built for the Ares 4 pre-supply missions. We can steal from them, and that'll save us some time. Also, we're sending food, which is pretty robust. Even if there's a re-entry problem and the probe impacts at high velocity, food is still food. And we don't need a precision landing. Watney can travel hundreds of kilometers if necessary. We just need to land close enough for him to reach it. This ends up being a standard tumble land pre-supply. All we have to do is make it quickly. So let's get to it. And there's a break. And we're into The message log again. 802 JPL. We've spun up a project to get you food. It's been in progress for a week or so. We can get it to you before you starve, but it'll be tight. It'll just be food and a radio. We can't set an oxygenator, water reclaimer, or any of that other stuff without power descent. 816 Watney. No complaints here. You get me the food, I'll be a happy camper. I've got all Hob systems up and running again. The water reclaimer is working fine now that I replaced the burst hoses. As for water supply, I have 620 liters remaining. I started with 900 liters, 300 to start with, 600 more from reducing hydrazine. So I lost almost 300 liters to sublimation. Still, with the water reclaimer operational gun, it's plenty. 831 JPL. Good. Keep us posted on any mechanical or electronic problems. By the way, the name of the probe we're sending is Iris, named after the Greek goddess who traveled the heavens with the speed of wind. She's also the goddess of rainbows. 847 Watney. Pride Parade probe coming to save me. Got it. How topical, because it's June right now. And now we're back to prose. Rich Purnell sipped coffee in the silent building. He ran a final test on the software he'd written. It passed. With a relieved sigh, he sank back in his chair. Checking the clock on his computer, he shook his head. 3:42 a.m. I think that's foreshadowing. I think the software will not pass. As an astrodynamicist, Rich rarely had to work late. His job was to find the exact orbits and course corrections needed for any given mission. Usually it was one of the first parts of the project, all the other steps being based on the orbit. But this time things were reversed. Iris needed an orbital path, and nobody knew when it would launch. Planets move as time goes by. A course calculated for a specific launch date will only work for that date. Even a single day's difference would result in missing Mars entirely. So Rich had to calculate many courses. He had a range of 25 days during which Iris might launch. He calculated one course for each. He began an email to his boss. Mike, he typed, attached are the courses for Iris in one-day increments. We should start peer review and vetting so they can be officially accepted. And you were right, I was here almost all night. It wasn't that bad, nowhere near the pain of calculating orbits for Hermes. I know you got bored when I go into the math, so I'll summarize. The small constant thrust of Hermes ion drives is much harder to deal with than the large point thrusts of pre-supply probes. All 25 of the courses take 414 days, and vary only slightly in thrust duration and angle. The fuel requirement is nearly identical for the orbits, and is well within the capacity of Eagle Eye's booster. It's too bad. Earth and Mars are really badly positioned. Heck, it's almost easier to... He stopped typing. Furrowing his brow, he stared into the distance. He said. He grabbed his coffee cup and went to the break room for a refill. And then there's another break. Teddy scanned the crowded conference room. It was rare to see such an assembly of NASA's most important people all in one place. He squared a small stack of notes he'd prepared and placed them neatly in front of him. I know you're all busy, Teddy said. Thank you for making time for this meeting. I need status on Project Iris from all departments. Venkat, let's start with you. The mission team's ready, Venkat said, looking at spreadsheets on his laptop. There was a minor turf war between the Ares 4 and Ares 3 pre-supply control teams. The Ares 3 guys said they should run it, because while Watney's on Mars, Ares 3 is still in progress. The Ares 4 team points out that it's their co-opted probe in the first place. I ended up going with Ares 3. Did that upset Ares 4? Teddy asked. Yes, but they'll get over it. They have 13 other pre-supply missions coming up. They won't have time to pout. Mitch, Teddy said to the flight controller. What about the launch? Mitch pulled the earpiece from his ear. We got a good control room ready, he said. I'll oversee the launch, the hand crews, and landing over the Venkat skies. Media, Teddy said, turning to Annie. I'm giving daily updates to the press, she said, leaning back in her chair. Everyone knows Watney's dead if this doesn't work. The public hasn't been disengaged in ship construction since Apollo 11. CNN's The Watney Report has been the #1 show in its time slot for the past 2 weeks. The attention is good, Teddy said. It'll help us get emergency funding from Congress. He looked up to see a man standing near the entrance. Maurice, thanks for flying out on short notice. Maurice nodded. Teddy gestured to him and addressed the room. For those who don't know, this is Maurice Stein from Cape Canaveral. He was the scheduled pad leader for Eagle Eye 3, so he inherited the role for Iris. Sorry for the bait and switch, Maurice. No problem, Maurice said. Glad I could help out. Teddy flipped the top page of his notes face down beside the stack. How's the booster? It's alright for now, said Maurice, but it's not ideal. Eagle Eye 3 was set to launch. Boosters aren't designed to stand upright and bear the stress of gravity for long periods. We're adding external supports that will remove before launch. It's easier than disassembly. Also, the fuel is corrosive to the internal tanks, so we had to drain it. In the meantime, we're performing inspections on all systems every 3 days. Good, thank you, Teddy said. He turned his attention to Bruce Ng, who stared back at him with heavy bloodshot eyes. Bruce, thanks you for flying out too. How's the weather in California these days? I wouldn't know, Bruce said. I rarely see the outdoors. Subdued laughter filled the room for a few seconds. Teddy flipped to another page. Time for the big question, Bruce. How's Iris coming along? We're behind, Bruce said with a tired shake of his head. We're going as fast as we can, but it's just not fast enough. I can find money for overtime, Teddy offered. We're already working around the clock. How far behind are we talking about? Teddy asked. Bruce rubbed his eyes and sighed. We've been at it 29 days, so we only have 19 left. After that, the pad needs 13 days to mount it on the booster. We're at least 2 weeks behind. Is that as far behind as you're going to get? Teddy asked, writing a note on his papers. Or will you slip more? Teddy shrugged. If we don't have any more problems, it'll be 2 weeks late. But we always have problems. Give me a number, Teddy said. 15 days, Bruce responded. If we had another 15 days, I'm sure we could get it done in time. All right, Teddy said, taking another note. Let's create 15 days. Yeah, let's just create days. Turning his attention to the Ares 3 flight surgeon, Teddy asked, Dr. Keller, can we reduce Watney's food intake to make the rations last longer? Sorry, but no, Keller said. He's already at a minimal calorie count. In fact, considering the amount of physical labor he does, he's eating far less than he should. And it's only going to get worse. Soon his entire diet will be potatoes and vitamin supplements. He's been saving protein-rich rations for later use, but he'll still be malnourished. Once he runs out of food, how long until he starves to death? Teddy asked. Presuming an ample water supply, he might last 3 weeks, shorter than a typical hunger strike, but remember, he'll be malnourished and thin to begin with. Venkat raised a hand and caught their attention. Remember, Iris is a tumbler. You might have to drive a few days to get it, and I'm guessing it's hard to control a rover when you're literally starving to death. He's right, Dr. Keller confirmed. Within 4 days of running out of food, he'll barely be able to stand up, let alone control a rover. Plus, his mental faculties will rapidly decline. He'd have a hard time even staying awake. So the landing date's firm, Teddy said. Maurice, can you get Iris on the booster in less than 13 days? Maurice leaned against the wall and pinched his chin. Well, it only takes 3 days to actually mount it. The following 10 are for testing and inspections. How much can you reduce those? With enough overtime, I can get the mounting down to 2 days. That includes transport from Pasadena to Cape Canaveral. But the inspections can't be shortened. They're time-based. We do checks and rechecks with set intervals between them to see if something deforms or warps. If you short the intervals, you invalidate the inspections. How often do these inspections reveal a problem? Teddy asked. A silence fell over the room. Maurice stammered. Are you suggesting we don't do the inspections? No, said Teddy. Right now I'm asking how often they reveal a problem. About 1 in 20 launches. Teddy wrote that down. And how often is the problem they find something that would have caused the mission failure? I'm not sure. Maybe half the time? He wrote that down as well. So if we skip inspections and testing, we have a 1 in 40 chance of mission failure, Teddy asked. That's 2.5%, Venkat said, stepping in. Normally that's grounds for a countdown halt. We can't take a chance like that. Normally was a long time ago, Teddy said. 97.5% is better than 0. Can anyone think of a safer way to get more time? He scanned the room. Blank faces stared back. All right then, he said, circling something in his notes. Speeding up the mounting process and skipping inspections buys us 11 days. If Bruce can pull a rabbit out of a hat and get done sooner, Maurice can do some inspections. What about the other 4 days? Venkat asked. I'm sure Watney can stretch the food to last 4 extra days, malnutrition notwithstanding, Teddy said, looking to Dr. Keller. Keller started. I can't recommend. Hang on, Teddy interrupted. He stood and straightened his blazer. Everyone, I understand your positions. We have procedures. Skipping those procedures means risk. Risk means trouble for your department. But now isn't the time to cover our butts. We have to take risks or Mark Watney dies. Turning to Keller, he said, make the food last another 4 days. Keller nodded. Rich, said Mike. Rich now concentrated on his computer screen. His cubicle was a landfill of printouts, charts, and reference books. Empty coffee cups rested on every surface. Takeout packaging littered the ground. Rich, Mike said more forcefully. Rich looked up. Yeah? What the hell are you doing? Just a little side project, something I wanted to check up on. Well, that's fine, I guess, Mike said. But you need to do your assigned work first. I asked for those satellite adjustments 2 weeks ago, and you still haven't done them. I needed some supercomputer time, Rich said. You need supercomputer time to calculate routine satellite adjustments. No, it's for the other thing I'm working on, Rich said. Rich, seriously, you have to do your job. Rich thought for a moment. Would now be a good time for a vacation? He asked. Mike sighed. You know what, Rich? I think now would be an ideal time for you to take a vacation. Great. Rich smiled. I'll start right now. Sure, Mike said. Go on home. Get some rest. Oh, I'm not going home, said Rich, returning to his calculations. Mike rubbed his eyes. Okay, whatever. About those satellite orbits? I'm on vacation, Rich said without looking up. Mike shrugged and walked away. Is this like some sort of saboteur? Another break. 8:01, Watney. How's my care package coming along? 8:16, JPL. A little behind schedule, but we'll get it done. In the meantime, we want you to get back to work. We're satisfied the hob is in good condition. Maintenance only takes you 12 hours per week. We're going to pack the rest of your time with research and experiments. Great. Watney, 8:31. Great. I'm sick of sitting on my butt. I'm going to be here for years. You may as well make use of me. 8:47, JPL. That's what we're thinking. We'll get you a schedule as soon as the science team puts it together. It will be mostly EVAs, geological sampling, soil tests, and weekly self-administered medical tests. Honestly, this is the best bonus Mars time we've had since the Opportunity lander. 9:02, Watney. Opportunity never went back to Earth. 9:17, JPL. Sorry, bad analogy. The JPL, oh yeah, this is a break. There's prose again. Call me Prozac, the way I love prose. That's funny. The JPL spacecraft assembly facility, known as the clean room, was the little-known birthplace of the most famous spacecraft in Mars exploration history. Mariner, Viking, Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity, just to name a few, had been all born in this one room. Today, the room was abuzz with activity as technicians sealed Iris into the specially designed shipping container. The off-duty techs watched the procedure from the observation deck. They had rarely seen their homes in the last 2 months. A makeshift bunk room had been set up in the cafeteria. Fully a third of them would normally be asleep at this hour, but they did not want to miss this moment. The shift leader tightened the final bolt. As he retracted the wrench, the engineers broke into applause. Many of them were in tears. After 63 days of grueling work, Iris was complete. Iris, these nuts. Annie took the podium and adjusted the microphone. The launch preparations are complete, she said. Iris is ready to go. The scheduled launch is at 9:14 a.m. Once launched, it will stay in orbit for at least 3 hours. During that time, Mission Control will gather exact telemetry in preparation for the Trans-Mars injection burn. When that's complete, the mission will be handed off to the Ares 3 pre-supply team, who will monitor its progress over the following months. It will take 414 days to reach Mars. About the payload, a reporter asked. I hear there's more than just food? That's true, Annie smiled. We allotted 100 grams for luxury items. Really? There are some handwritten letters from Mark's family, a note from the president, and a USB drive filled with new music from all ages. Any disco? Someone asked. No disco, Annie said as chuckles cascaded through the room. CNN's Kathy Warner spoke up. If this launch fails, is there any recourse for Watney? There are risks to any launch, Annie said, sidestepping the question, but we don't anticipate problems. The weather at the Cape is clear with warm temperatures. Conditions couldn't be better. Is there any spending limit to the surf rescue operation? Another reporter asked. Some people are beginning to ask how much is too much. It's not about the bottom line, Annie said, prepared for the question. It's about a human life in immediate danger. But if you want to look at it financially, consider the value of Mark Watney's extended mission. His prolonged mission and fight for survival are giving us more knowledge about Mars than the rest of the Ares program combined. Ugh. I fucked that passage up. There's another break. Do you believe in God, Venkat? Mitch asked. Sure, lots of them, Venkat said. I'm Hindu. Ask them all for help with this launch. Will do. Mitch stepped forward to his station on Mission Control. The room bustled with activity as the dozens of controllers each made final preparations for launch. He put his headset on and glanced at the time readout on the giant center screen at the front of the room. He turned on his headset and said, This is the flight director. Begin status launch check. Roger that, Houston, was the reply from the launch control director in Florida. CDR checking all stations are manned and systems ready, he broadcast. Give me a go or no go for launch. Talker? Go, was the response. Timer. Go, said another voice. QAM1. Go. Resting his chin on his hands, Mitch stared at the center screen. It showed the pad video feed. The booster, amid cloudy water vapor from the cooling process, still had Eagle Eye 3 stenciled on the side. QAM2, go. QAM3, go. Venkat leaned against the back wall. He was an administrator. His job was done. He could only watch and hope. His gaze was fixated on the far wall's displays. In his mind, he saw the numbers, the shift juggling, the outright lies and borderline crimes he'd committed to put his mission together. It would all be worthwhile if it worked. FSC, go. Prop 1, go. Teddy sat in the VIP observation room behind Mission Control. His authority afforded him the very best seat, front row center. His briefcase lay at his feet, and he held a blue folder in his hands. Prop 2, go. PTO, go. Annie Montrose paced in their private office next to the press room. 9 televisions mounted to the wall were each tuned to a different network. Each network showed the launch pad. A glance at her computer showed foreign networks doing the same. The world was holding its breath. ACC, go. LWO, go. Bruce Ng sat in the JPL cafeteria, along with hundreds of engineers who had given everything they had to Iris. They watched the live feed on a projection screen. Some fidgeted, unable to find comfortable positions. Others held hands. It was 6:13 a.m. in Pasadena, yet every single employee was present. AFLC, go. Guidance, go. Millions of kilometers away, the crew of Hermes listened as they crowded around Johansson's station. The 2-minute transmission time didn't matter. They had no way to help. There was no need to interact. Johansson stared intently at her screen, although it displayed only the audio signal strength. Beck wrung his hands. Vogel stood motionless, his eyes fixed on the floor. Martinez prayed silently at first and saw no reason to hide it. Commander Lewis stood apart, her arms folded across her chest. PTC, go. Launch Vehicle Director, go. Houston, this is Launch Control. We are go for launch. Roger, Mitch said, checking the countdown. This is flight. We are go for launch on schedule. Roger that, Houston, Launch Control said. Launch on schedule. Once the clock reached -00:15, the television networks got what they were waiting for. The timer controller began the verbal countdown. 15, she said. 14, 13, 12, 11. Thousands had gathered at Cape Canaveral, the largest crowd ever to watch an unmanned launch. They listened to the time controller's voice as it echoed across the grandstands. 10, 9, 8, 7. Rich Purnell, entrenched in his orbital calculations, had lost track of time. He didn't notice when his co-workers migrated to a large meeting room where a TV had been set up. In the back of his mind, he thought the office was unusually quiet, but he gave it no further thought. Classic saboteur. 6, 5, 4. Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1. Clamps released, the booster rose amid a plume of smoke and fire, slowly at first, then racing ever faster. The assembled crowd cheered it on its way. And liftoff of the Iris Supply probe, the timer controller said. As the booster soared, Mitch had no time to watch the spectacle on the main screen. Trim, he called out. Trim's good. Flight, was the immediate response. Course, he asked. On course. Altitude 1,000 meters, someone said. We're reaching safe abort, another person called out, indicating that the ship could crash harmlessly into the Atlantic Ocean if necessary. Altitude 1,500 meters. Pitch and roll maneuver commencing. Getting a little shimmy, flight. Mitch looked over to the ascent flight director. Say again. A slight shimmy. Onboard guidance is handling it. Keep an eye on it, Mitch said. Altitude 2,500 meters. Pitch and roll complete. 22 seconds till staging. And there's a break, and there's back to it is still prose. Okay. When designing Iris, JPL accounted for catastrophic landing failure. Rather than normal mule kits, most of the food was cubed protein bar material, which would still be edible even if Iris failed to deploy its tumble balloons and impacted at incredible speed. Because Iris was an unmanned mission, there was no cap on acceleration. The contents of the probe endured forces no human could survive. But while NASA had tested the effects of extreme G-forces on protein cubes, they had not done so with a simultaneous lateral vibration. Had they been given more time, they would have. The harmless shimmy caused by a minor fuel mixture imbalance rattled the payload. Iris, mounted firmly within the aeroshell atop the booster, held firm. The protein cubes inside Iris did not. At the microscopic level, the protein cubes were solid food particles suspended in thick vegetable oil. The food particles compressed to less than half the original size, but the oil was barely affected at all. This changed the volume ratio of solid to liquid dramatically, which in turn made the aggregate act as a liquid. Known as liquefaction, this process transformed the protein cubes from a steady solid into a flowing sludge. Stored in a compartment that originally had no leftover space, the now compressed sludge had room to slosh. The shimmy also caused an unbalanced load, forcing the sludge towards the edge of the compartment. The shift in weight only aggravated the larger problem, and the shimmy grew stronger. Oh no! Shimmy's getting violent, reported the ascent flight director. How violent? Mitch asked. More than we like, he said, but the accelerometers caught it and calculated the new center of mass. The guidance computer is adjusting the engine's thrust to counteract. We're still good. Keep me posted, Mitch said. 13 seconds till staging. The unexpected weight shift had not spelled disaster. All systems were designed for worst-case scenarios. Each did its job admirably. The ship continued towards orbit with only a minor course adjustment, implemented automatically by sophisticated software. The first stage depleted its fuel, and the booster coasted for a fraction of a second as it jettisoned stage clamps via explosive bolts. The now empty stage fell away from the craft as the second stage engines prepared to ignite. The brutal forces had disappeared. The protein sludge floated free in the container. Given 2 seconds, it would have re-expanded and solidified, but it was given only a quarter second. As the second stage fired, the craft experienced a sudden jolt of immense force. No longer contending with the dead weight of the first stage, the acceleration was profound. The 300 kilograms of sludge slammed into the back of the container. The point of impact was at the edge of Iris, nowhere near where the mass was expected to be. Though Iris was held in place by 5 large bolts, the force was directed entirely to a single one. The bolt was designed to withstand immense forces, if necessary, to carry the entire weight of the payload, but it was not designed to sustain a sudden impact from a loose 300-kilogram mass. The bolt sheared. The burden was then shifted to the remaining 4 bolts. The forceful impact having passed, their work was considerably easier than that of the fallen comrade. Had the pad crew been given time to do normal inspections, they would have noticed a minor defect in one of the bolts, a defect that slightly weakened it, though it would not cause failure on a normal mission. Still, they would have swapped it out with a perfect replacement. The off-center load presented unequal force to the 4 remaining bolts, the defective one bearing the brunt of it. Soon it failed as well. From there, the other 3 failed in rapid succession. Iris slipped from its supports in the aeroshell, slamming into the hole. "Whoa!" exclaimed the Ascent Flight Director. "Flight, we're getting a large precession." "What?" Mitch said as alerts beeped and lights flashed all across the consoles. "Force on Iris is at 7 Gs, someone said. "Intermittent signal loss," said another voice. "Ascent, what's happening here?" Mitch demanded. "All hell broke loose. It's spinning on the long axis with a 17-degree precession." "How bad?" "At least 5 RPS, and falling off course." "Can you get it to orbit?" "I can't talk to it at all. Signal failures left and right." "Calm," Mitch shot to the communications director. "Working on it, Flight," was the response. "There's a problem with the onboard system. Getting some major Gs inside, Flight. Ground telemetry shows it 200 meters low of target path. We've lost readings on the probe, Flight." "Entirely lost the probe?" he asked. "Affirm, Flight." "Intermittent signal from the ship, but no probe." "Oh no," Mitch said. It shook loose in the aeroshell. "It's dreidling, Flight." "Can it live to orbit?" Mitch said. "Even super low EO, we might be able to." "Loss of signal, Flight." LOS here too. "Same here." Other than the alarms, the room fell silent. After a moment, Mitch said, "Re-establish." "No luck," said Com. "Ground?" Mitch asked. "GC," was the reply. Vehicle had already left visual range. "SATCON?" Mitch asked. "No satellite acquisition of signal." Mitch looked forward to the main screen. It was black now, with large white letters reading LOS. "Flight," a voice said over the radio. "U.S. destroyer Stockton reports debris falling from the sky. Sources match last known location of Iris." Mitch put his head in his hands. "Roger," he said. Then he uttered the words every flight director hopes never to say. "GC, Flight. Lock the doors." It was the signal to start post-failure procedures. From the VIP observation room, Teddy watched the despondent Mission Control Center. He took a deep breath and let it out. He looked forlornly at the blue folder that contained his cheerful speech praising a perfect launch. He placed it in his briefcase and extracted the red folder with the other speech in it. Venkat stared out his office windows to the space center beyond. A space center that housed mankind's most advanced knowledge of rocketry, yet had still failed to execute today's launch. His mobile rang, his wife again, no doubt worried about him. He let it go to voicemail. He just couldn't face her or anyone. A chime came from his computer. Glancing over, he saw an email from JPL, a relayed message from Pathfinder. 1603. Watney, how'd the launch go? Oh, how ironic. That's chapter 15. Uh-oh, Watney's gonna die. I'm wondering if I should read on. Let's 35 minutes. I'll stop for today. No. Hold on. It's 6:12. Let's do it. Let's go one more. Chapter 16. Martinez. Hold on. Give me a second. Okay, I got my dinner. No, I gotta make sure I don't get any food on the table or on the floor or anything. This is the fucking basement, dude. It's like the least tended to part of the house. Alright, let's continue. Chapter 16. Martinez. Dr. Shields says I need to write personal messages to each of the crew. She says it'll keep me tethered to humanity. I think it's bull, but hey, it's an order. With you, I can be blunt. If I die, I need you to check on my parents. They'll want to hear about our time on Mars firsthand. I need you to do that. It won't be easy talking to a couple about their dead son. It's a lot to ask. That's why I'm asking you. I'd tell you you're my best friend and stuff, but it would be lame. I'm not giving up, just planning for every outcome. It's what I do. Oh yeah, this is Mark Watney's message to Martinez. Yes. Guoming. Oh god, no shot that's his name. I think that's like Chinese for sick, getting sick. Guoming. Guoming, director of the China National Space Administration, examined the daunting pile of paperwork at his desk. In the olden days, when China wanted to launch a rocket, they just launched it. Now they were compelled by international agreements to warn other nations first. It was a requirement, Guoming noted to himself, that did not apply to the United States. To be fair, the Americans publicly announced their launch schedules well in advance, so it amounted to the same thing. He walked a fine line filing out the form, making the launch date and flight path clear while doing everything possible to conceal state secrets. He snorted at the last requirement. Ridiculous, he mumbled. The Tai Yong Shen had no strategic or military value. It was an unmanned probe that would be in Earth orbit less than 2 days. After that, it would travel to a solar orbit between Mercury and Venus. It would be China's first heliology probe to orbit the sun. Yet the State Council insisted all launches be shrouded in secrecy, even launches with nothing to hide. This way, other nations could not infer from lack of openness which launches contained classified payloads. A knock at the door interrupted his paperwork. "Come," Guoming said, happy for the interruption. "Good evening, sir," said Under-Director Zhu Tao. "Tao, welcome back." "Thank you, sir. It's good to be back in Beijing." "I'm assuming these are all translated from Chinese to English." "How are things in Jiuqian?" asked Guoming. "Not too cold, I hope. I'll never understand why our launch complex is in the middle of the Gobi Desert." "It was cold yet manageable," Zhu Tao said. "And how are launch preparations coming along?" "I am happy to report they are all on schedule." "Excellent," Guoming smiled. Zhu Tao sat quietly, staring at his boss. Guoming looked expectantly back at him, but Zhu Tao neither stood to leave nor said anything further. "Something else, Tao?" Guoming asked. Zhu Tao said. "Of course you've heard about the Iris probe." "Yes, I did," Guo frowned. "Terrible situation. That poor man's going to starve." "Possibly," Zhu Tao said. "Possibly not." Guoming leaned back in his chair. "What are you saying?" "It's the Taiyang Shen's booster, sir. Our engineers have run the numbers and it has enough fuel for a Mars injection orbit. It could get there in 419 days. "Are you kidding?" "Have you ever known me to kid, sir?" Guoming stood and pinched his chin. Pacing, he said, "We can really send the Taiyang Shen to Mars?" "No, sir," said Zhu Tao. "It's far too heavy. The massive heat shielding makes it the heaviest unmanned probe we've ever built. That's why the booster had to be powerful, but a lighter payload could be sent all the way to Mars." "How much mass could we send?" Guoming asked. 941 kilograms, sir." Guoming said. "I bet NASA could work with that limitation. Why haven't they approached us?" "Because they don't know," Zhu Tao said. All our booster tech is classified information. The Ministry of State Security even spreads disinformation about our capabilities. This is for obvious reasons." So they don't know we can help them," Guoming said. "If we decide not to help, no one will know we could have." "Correct, sir." "For the sake of argument, let's say we decided to help. What then?" "Time would be the enemy, sir," Zhu Tao answered. "Based on travel duration, and the supplies their astronaut has remaining, any such probe would have to be launched within a month. Even then, he would starve a little." "That's right around when we planned to launch Taiyang Shen." "Yes, sir, but it took them 2 months to build Iris, and it was so rushed it failed." "That's their problem," Guoming said. "Our end would be providing the booster. We'd launch from Jiuquan. We can't ship an 800-ton rocket to Florida." "Any agreement would hinge on the Americans reimbursing us for the booster," Zhu Tao said, "and the State Council would likely want political favors from the U.S. government." "Reimbursement would be pointless," Guoming said. "This was an expensive project, and the State Council grumbled about it all along. If they had a bulk payout for its value, they'd just keep it. We'd never get to build another one." He clasped his hands behind his back. And the U.S. people may be sentimental, but their government is not. The U.S. State Department will trade anything major for one man's life. "So it's hopeless?" asked Zhu Tao. "Not hopeless," Guoming corrected, "just hard. If this becomes a negotiation by diplomats, it will never be resolved. We need to keep this among scientists. Space agency to space agency. I'll get a translator and call NASA's administrator. We'll work out an agreement, then present it to our governments as a fait accompli." "But what can they do for us?" Zhu Tao asked. "We'd be giving up a booster and effectively canceling Taiyang Shen." Guoming smiled. "They'll give us something we can't get without them. And that is?" "They'll put a Chinese astronaut on Mars." Zhu Tao stood. "Of course," he smiled. "The Ares 5 crew hasn't even been selected yet. We'll insist on a crewman. Once we get to pick and train, NASA and the U.S. State Department would surely accept that. But will our State Council?" Guoming smiled wryly. "Publicly rescue the Americans? Put a Chinese astronaut on Mars? Have the world see China as equal to the U.S. in space? The State Council would sell their own mothers for that." Interesting. I'll eat a bit before we continue. Holy shit, I already got stuff on the table? What the hell is this? What is my aim about? Alright, let's continue. Just a few minutes of ASMR lip smacking and just chewing. Alright. Teddy listened to the phone in his ear. The voice on the other end finished what it had to say, then fell silent as it awaited an answer. He stared at nothing in particular as he processed what he just heard. After a few seconds, he replied, "Yes." And here's another message from Watley. "Johansson, your poster outsold the rest of ours combined. You're a hot chick who went to Mars. You're on dorm room walls all around the world." Is this like Scarlett Johansson? Imagine if Scarlett Johansson was among the few people to go to Mars. Isn't that weird? It's fucking weird. What a weird timeline. Looking like that, why are you such a nerd? And you are, you know, a serious nerd. I had to do some computer work to get Pathfinder talking to the rover, and wow. Just wow. And I had NASA telling me what to do every step of the way. You should try to be more cool. Wear dark glasses and a leather jacket. Carry a switchblade. Aspire to be a level of coolness known only as botanist cool. Did you know Commander Lewis had a chat with us men? If anyone hit on you, we'd be off the mission. I guess after a lifetime of commanding sailors, she's got an unfairly jaded view. Anyways, the point is you're a nerd. Remind me to give you a wedgie next time I see you. A man giving a wedgie to someone he thinks is a hot chick is certainly something. Alright. "Okay, here we are again," said Bruce to the assembled heads of JPL. "You've all heard about the Taiyang Shen, so you know our friends in China have given us one more chance, but this time it's going to be harder." Taiyang Shen will be ready to launch in 28 days. If it launches on time, our payload will get to Mars on Sol 624, 6 weeks after Watney's expected to run out of food. NASA's already working on ways to stretch his supply. We made history when we finished Iris in 63 days. Now we have to do it in 28. He looked across the table to the incredulous faces. Folks, he said, this is going to be the most ghetto spacecraft ever built. There is only one way to finish that fast. No landing system. Sorry, what? Oh, excuse me, what? Oh, excuse me, what? Jack Trevor stammered. Bruce nodded. You heard me. No landing system. We'll need guidance for in-flight course adjustments. But once he gets to Mars, it's going to crash. That's crazy, Jack said. It's going to be an insane velocity when it happens. When it hits. Yup, Bruce said. With ideal atmospheric drag, it'll impact at 300 meters per second. What good will a pulverized probe do Watney? Jack asked. As long as the food doesn't burn up in the way in, Watney can eat it, Bruce said. Turning to the whiteboard, he began drawing a basic organizational chart. I want 2 teams, he began. Team 1 will make the outer shell, guidance system, and thrusters. All we need is for it to get to Mars. I want the safest possible system. Aerosol propellant would be best. High-gain radio so we can talk to it, and standard satellite navigational software. Team 2 will deal with the payload. They need to find a way to contain the food during impact. If protein bars hit sand at 300 meters per second, they'll make protein-scented sand. We need them edible after impact. We can weigh 941 kilograms. At least 300 of that needs to be food. Get cracking. Alright, and then there's a break. Dr. Kapoor, Rich said, peeking his head into Venkat's office. Do you have a minute? Venkat gestured him in. You are... Rich Purnell, he said, shuffling into the office, his arms wrapped around the sheaf of disorganized papers from Astrodynamics. Nice to meet you, Venkat said. What can I do for you, Rich? I came up with something a while ago. Spent a lot of time on it. He dumped the papers on Venkat's desk. Let me find this summary. Venkat stared forlornly at his once clean desk, now strewn with scores of printouts. Here we go, Rich said triumphantly, grabbing a paper. Then his expression saddened. No, this isn't it. Rich, Venkat said. Maybe you should just tell me what this is about. Rich looked at the mess of papers inside. But I had such a summary. A summary for what? How to save Watney. That's already in progress, Venkat said. It's a last-ditch effort, but the Taiyang Shen, Rich snorted, that won't work. You can't make a Mars probe in a month. We're sure as hell going to try, Venkat said, a note of annoyance in his voice. Oh, sorry, am I being difficult? Rich asked. I'm not good with people. Sometimes I'm difficult. I wish people would just tell me. Anyways, Taiyang Shen is critical. In fact, my idea won't work without it. But a Mars probe? Pfft, come on. Alright, Venkat said. What's your idea? Rich snatched the paper from the desk. Here it is. He handed it to Venkat with a childlike smile. Venkat took the summary and skimmed it. The more he read, the wider his eyes got. Are you sure about this? Absolutely, Rich beamed. Have you told anyone else? Who would I tell? I don't know, Venkat said. Friends? I don't have any of those. Oh my god. He's me for real. Okay, keep it under your hat. I don't wear a hat. It's just an expression. Really? Rich said. It's a stupid expression. Rich, you're being difficult. Ah, thanks. I'm going to take a break and eat more shit. continue. Vogel. Being your backup has backfired. I guess NASA figured botany and chemistry are similar because they both end in Y. One way or another, I ended up being your backup chemist. Remember when they made you spend a day explaining your experiments to me? It was in the middle of intense mission prep. You may have forgotten. You started my training by buying me a beer for breakfast. Germans are awesome. Anyway, now that I have time to kill, NASA gave me a pile of work, and all your chemistry crap is on the list. So now I have to do boring experiments with test tubes and soil and pH levels and zzz. My life is now a desperate struggle for survival, with occasional titration. Frankly, I suspect you're a supervillain. You're a chemist. You have a German accent. You had a base on Mars. What more can there be? Maybe he caused the Ares 3 mission to fail. Interesting. What the hell is Project Elrond? Annie asked. I had to make something up, Venkat said. So you came up with Elrond? Annie pressed. Because it's a secret meeting, Mitch guessed. The email said I couldn't even tell my assistant. I'll explain everything once Teddy arrives, Venkat said. Why does Elrond mean secret meeting? Annie asked. Are we going to make a momentous decision? Bruce Ing asked. Exactly, Venkat said. How did you know that? Annie asked, getting annoyed. Elrond, Bruce said. The Council of Elrond. From Lord of the Rings. It's the meeting where they decide to destroy the One Ring. Wow, Annie said. None of you got laid in high school, did you? Isn't that a good thing? Sex in high school is really fucking dangerous, Annie. Maybe you should watch your fucking mouth, dude. Good morning, Teddy said as he walked into the conference room. Seating himself, he rested his hands on the table. Anyone knows what this meeting's about? He asked. Wait, Mitch said. Teddy doesn't even know? Venkat took a deep breath. One of our astrodynamicists, Rich Purnell, has found a way to get Hermes back on Mars. The course he came up with would give Hermes a Mars flyby on Sol 549. Silence. You kidding us? Annie demanded. Sol 549, how's that even possible? Asked Bruce. Even Iris wouldn't have landed till Sol 588. Iris is a point thrust craft, Venkat said. Hermes has a constant thrust ion engine. It's always accelerating. Also, Hermes has a lot of velocity right now. On their current Earth intercept course, they have to decelerate for the next month just to slow down to Earth speed. Mitch rubbed the back of his head. Wow. 549. That's 35 sols before Watney runs out of food. That would solve everything. Teddy leaned forward. Run us through it, Venkat. What would it entail? Well, Venkat said, if they did this Rich Purnell maneuver, they'd start accelerating right away to preserve their velocity and gain even more. They wouldn't intercept Earth at all, just would come close enough to use the gravity assist to adjust course. Around that time, they'd pick up a resupply probe with provisions for the extended trip. After that, they'd be on accelerating orbit towards Mars, arriving at Sol 549. Like I said, it's a Mars flyby. This isn't anything like a normal Ares mission. They'll be going too fast to fall into orbit. The rest of the maneuver takes them back to Earth. They'd be home 211 days after the flyby. What good is a flyby? Bruce asked. They don't have any way to get Watney off the surface. Yeah, Venkat said. Now for the unpleasant part. Watney would have to get to the Ares 4 MAV. Schiaparelli? Mitch gaped. That's 3,200 kilometers away. 3,235 kilometers to be exact, Venkat said. It's not out of the question. He drove to Pathfinder's landing site and back. That's over 1,500 kilometers. That was over flat desert terrain, Bruce chimed in. But the trip to Schiaparelli, suffice it to say, Venkat interrupted, it would be very difficult and dangerous. But we have a lot of clever scientists to help him trick out the rover. Also, there would be MAV modifications. What's wrong with the MAV? Mitch asked. It's designed to get to low Mars orbit, Venkat explained, but Hermes would be on a flyby, so the MAV would have to escape Mars gravity entirely to intercept. How? Mitch said. How? Mitch asked. It'd have to lose weight, a lot of weight. I can get rooms full of people working on those problems if we decide to do this. Earlier, Teddy said, you mentioned the supply probe for Hermes. We have that capability? Yes, with the Taiyong Shen, Venkat said. We'd shoot for a near-Earth rendezvous. It's a lot easier than getting a probe to Mars, that's for sure. I see, Teddy said. So we have two options on the table. Send Watney enough food to last until Ares 4, or send Hermes back to get him right now. Both plans require the Taiyong Shen, so we can only do one. Yes, Venkat said, we'd have to pick one. They all took a moment to consider. What about the Hermes crew? Annie asked, breaking the silence. Would they have a problem with adding, she did some quick math in her head, 533 days to their mission? They wouldn't hesitate, Mitch said, not for a second. That's why Venkat called this meeting. He glared at Venkat. He wants us to decide instead. That's right, Venkat said. It should be Commander Lewis's call, Mitch said. Pointless to even ask her, Venkat said. We need to make this decision. It's a matter of life and death. She's the mission commander, Mitch said. Life and death decisions are her job. Easy, Mitch, Teddy said. Bull, Mitch said. You guys have done end runs around the crew every time something goes wrong. You didn't tell them Watney was still alive. Now you're not telling them there's a way to save him. We already have a way to keep him alive, Teddy said. We're just discussing another one. The crash lander, Mitch said. Does anyone think that'll work? Anyone? Alright, Mitch, Teddy said. You've expressed your opinion, and we've heard it. Let's move on. He turned to Venkat. Can Hermes function for 533 days beyond the scheduled mission end? It should, Venkat said. The crew may have to fix things here and there, but they're well trained. Remember, Hermes was made to do all 5 Ares missions. It's only halfway through its designed lifespan. It's the most expensive thing ever built, Teddy said. We can't make another one. If something went wrong, the crew would die, and the Ares program with them. Losing the crew would be a disaster, Venkat said, but we wouldn't lose Hermes. We can remotely operate it. So long as the reactor and ion engines continue to work, we can bring it back. Space travel is dangerous, Mitch said. We can't make this a discussion about what's safest. I disagree, Teddy said. This is absolutely a discussion about what's safest, and about how many lives are at stake. Both plans are risky, but resupplying Watney only risks 1 life, while the rich Purnell maneuver risks 6. Consider degree of risk, Teddy, Venkat said. Mitch is right. The crash lander is high risk. It could miss Mars. It could re-enter wrong and burn up. It could crash hard and destroy the food. We estimate a 30% chance of success. A near-Earth rendezvous with Hermes is more doable? Teddy asked. Much more doable, Venkat confirmed. With sub-second transmission delays, we can control the probe directly from Earth rather than rely on automated systems. When time comes to dock, Major Martinez can pilot it remotely from Hermes with no transmission delay at all. And Hermes has a human crew, able to overcome any hiccups that may happen. And we don't have to do a re-entry. The supplies don't have to survive a 300 meters per second impact. So, Bruce offered, we can have a high chance of killing 1 person, or a low chance of killing 6 people. Geez, how do we even make this decision? Well, we talk about it, then Teddy makes the decision, Venkat said. Not sure what else we can do. We could let Lewis, Mitch began. Yeah, other than that, Venkat interrupted. Why is Venkat so fucking against telling the crew? Question, Annie said. What am I even here for? This seems like something for you nerds to discuss. You need to be in the loop, Venkat said. We're not deciding right now. We'll need to quietly research the details internally. Something might leak and you need to be ready to dance around questions. How long have we got to make decision? Teddy asked. The window for starting the maneuver ends in 39 hours. Alright, Teddy said. Everyone, we discuss this only in person or on the phone. Never email. And don't talk to anyone about this other than the people here. The last thing we need is public opinion pressing for a risky cowboy rescue that may be impossible. I'm going to eat some more. Dude, I freaking love mushrooms. I'm gonna bring this up and then come back and we're gonna go forward. Why are chicken hearts so tasty? They're like the subtle mushroomy flavor. Though I don't want to think about eating chicken hearts, because my mind will make me believe they're still beating. Alright, let's continue. Back. Hey man, how you been? Now that I'm in a dire situation, I don't have to follow social rules anymore. I can be honest with everyone. Bearing that in mind, I have to say, dude, you need to tell Johansson how you feel. If you don't, you'll regret it forever. I won't lie, it could end badly. I have no idea what she thinks of you, or of anything. She's weird. But wait until the mission's over. You're on a ship with her for another 2 months. Also, if you guys got up to anything while the mission was in progress, Lewis would kill you. Venkat, Mitch, Annie, Bruce, and Teddy met for the second time in as many days. Project Elrond had taken on a dark connotation throughout the Space Center, veiled in secrecy. Many people knew the name, none knew its purpose. Speculation ran rampant. Some thought it was a completely new program in the works. Others worried it might be a move to cancel Ares 4 and 5. Most thought it was Ares 6 in the works. But it wasn't an easy decision. Teddy said to the assembled elite, but I've decided to go with Iris too. No Rich Purnell maneuver. Mitch slammed his fist on the table. We'll do all we can to make it work, Bruce said. Oh, he's decided to reject the Rich Purnell maneuver. He's going with the other plan. I see. That's stupid, dude. Mitch slammed his fist on the table. We'll do all we can to make it work, Bruce said. If it's not too much to ask, Venkat began, what made up your mind? Teddy sighed. It's a matter of risk, he said. Iris 2 only risks 1 life. Rich Purnell risks all 6 of them. I know Rich Purnell is more likely to work, but I don't think it's 6 times more likely. You coward, Mitch said. Mitch, Venkat said. You goddamn coward, Mitch continued, ignoring Venkat. You just want to cut your losses. You're on damage control. You don't care about Rodney's life. Of course I do, Teddy replied, and I'm sick of your infantile attitude. You can throw all the tantrums you want, but the rest of us have to be adults. This isn't a TV show. The riskier solution isn't always the best. Space is dangerous, Mitch snapped. It's what we do here. If you want to play it safe all the time, go join an insurance company. And by the way, it's not even your life you're risking. The crew can make up their own minds about it. No, they can't, Teddy fired back. They're too emotionally involved. Clearly, so are you. I'm not gambling 5 additional lives to save 1, especially when we might save him without risking them at all. Bull, Mitch shot back as he stood from his chair. You're just convincing yourself the crash lander will work so you don't have to take a risk. You're hanging him out to dry. He stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. After a few seconds, Venkat followed behind, saying, I'll make sure he cools off. Bruce slumped in his chair. Sheesh, he said nervously. We're scientists. What the hell? Annie quietly gathered her things and placed them in a briefcase. Teddy looked at her. Sorry about that, Annie, he said. What can I say? Sometimes men let testosterone take over. I was hoping he'd kick your ass, she interrupted. What? I know you care about the astronauts, but he's right. You are a coward. If you had balls, we might be able to save Watney. Well, I've finished my dinner, so we don't have to take another break. We can go straight to the end. Lewis. Hi, Commander. Between training and a trip to Mars, I spent 2 years working with you. I think I know you pretty well. So I'm guessing you still blame yourself for my situation, despite my earlier email asking you not to. You were faced with an impossible scenario and made a tough decision. That's what commanders do, and your decision was right. If you'd waited any longer, the MAV would have tipped. I'm sure you've run through all the possible outcomes in your head, so you know there's nothing you could have done differently other than be psychic. I'm just imagining Watney putting that in the message. Just the most painful burp he's done. And then maybe like typing it out, like just typing it out. You probably think losing a crewman is the worst thing that can happen. Not true. Losing the whole crew is the worst. You kept that from happening. But there's something more important we need to discuss. What is it with you and disco? I can understand the 70s TV because everyone loves hairy people with huge collars. But disco? Vogel checked the position and orientation of Hermes against the projected path. It matched as usual. In addition to being the mission's chemist, he was also an accomplished astrophysicist, though his duties as navigator were laughably easy. The computer knew the course. It knew when to angle the ship so the ion engines would be aimed correctly, and it knew the location of the ship at all times, easily calculated from the position of the sun on Earth and knowing the exact time from an onboard atomic clock. Barring a complete computer failure or other critical event, Vogel's vast knowledge of astrodynamics would never come into play. After completing the check, he ran a diagnostic on the engines. They were functioning at peak. He did all this from his quarters. All onboard computers could control all ship's functions. Gone were the days of physically visiting the engines to check up on them. Having completed his work for the day, he finally had time to read email. Sorting through the messages NASA deemed worthy to upload, he read the most interesting first and responded when necessary. His responses were cached, and sent to Earth with Johansson's next uplink. A message from his wife caught his attention, titled Unsere Kinder. It contained nothing but an image attachment. He raised an eyebrow. Several things stood out at once. First, Kinder should have been capitalized. Helena, a grammar school teacher in Bremen, was very unlikely to make that mistake. Also, to each other, they affectionately called their kids die Affen. When he tried to open the image, his viewer reported that the file was unreadable. He walked down the narrow hallway. The crew quarters stood against the outer hull of the constantly spinning ship to maximize simulated gravity. Johansson's door was open as usual. Johansson, good evening, Vogel said. The crew kept the same sleep schedule, and it was nearing bedtime. Oh, hello, Johansson said, looking up from her computer. I have the computer problem, Vogel explained. I wonder if you will help. Sure, she said. You are in the personal time, Vogel said. Perhaps tomorrow when you are on the duty is better. Now it's fine, she said. What's wrong? It is a file. It is an image, but my computer cannot view. Where is the file? She asked, typing on her keyboard. It is on my shared space. The name is kinder.jpg. Let's take a look, she said. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as windows opened and closed on the screen. Definitely a bad JPG header, she said. Probably mangled in the download. Let me look with the hex editor. Let's see if we got anything at all. After a few moments, she said, This isn't a JPG. It's a plain ASCII text file. Looks like, well, I don't know what it is. Looks like a bunch of math formulae. She gestured to the screen. Does any of this make sense to you? Vogel leaned in, looking at the text. Yeah, he said, it is a course maneuver for Hermes. It says the name is Rich Purnell Maneuver. What's that? Johansson asked. I have not heard of this maneuver. He looked at the tables. It is complicated, very complicated. He froze. So 549, he explained. He exclaimed, Mein Gott, XDD. The Hermes crew enjoyed their scant personal time in an area called the Wreck. The Wreck, not the W-R-E-C-K, but just the R-E-C. The Wreck. The recreational area. The Wreck. Consisting of a table and barely room to seat 6, it ranked low in gravity priority. Its position amidships granted it a mere 0.2 G. Still, it was enough to keep everyone in a seat as they pondered what Vogel told them. And then mission would conclude with Earth intercept 211 days later, he finished up. Thank you, Vogel, Lewis said. She'd heard the explanation earlier when Vogel came to her, but Johansen, Martinez, and Beck were hearing it for the first time. She gave them a moment to digest. Would this really work? Martinez asked. Yeah, Vogel nodded. I ran the numbers. They all check out. It is brilliant course. Amazing. How would he get off Mars? Martinez asked. Lewis leaned forward. There was more in the message, she began. We'd have to pick up a supply near Earth, and he'd have to get to Ares 4's MAV. Why all the cloak and dagger? Beck asked. According to the message, Lewis explained, NASA rejected the idea. They'd rather take a big risk on Watney than a small risk on all of us. Whoever snuck it into Vogel's email obviously disagreed. So, Martinez asked, we're talking about going directly against NASA's decision. Yes, Lewis confirmed. That's exactly what we're talking about. If we go through with the maneuver, they'll have to send a supply ship or we'll die. We have the opportunity to force their hand. Are we going to do it? Johansen asked. They all looked to Lewis. I won't lie, she said. I'd sure like to, but this isn't a normal decision. This is something NASA expressly rejected. We're talking about mutiny, and that's not a word I throw around lightly. She stood and paced slowly around the table. We'll only do it if we all agree, and before you answer, consider the consequences. If we mess up the supply rendezvous, we die. If we mess up the Earth gravity assist, we die. If we do everything perfectly, we add 533 days to our mission. 533 days of unplanned space travel where anything can go wrong. Maintenance will be a hassle. Something might break that we can't fix. If it's life critical, we die. Sign me up, Martinez smiled. Easy, cowboy, Lewis said. You and I are military. There's a good chance we'd be court-martialed when we got home. As for the rest of you, I guarantee they'll never send you up again. Martinez leaned against the wall, arms folded with a half-grin on his face. The rest silently considered what their commander had said. If we do this, Vogel said, it will be over 1,000 days of space. This is enough space for life. I do not need to return. Sounds like Vogel's in, Martinez grinned. Me too, obviously. Let's do it, Beck said. If you think it'll work, Johansen said to Lewis, I trust you. Okay, Lewis said. If we go for it, what's involved? Vogel shrugged. I plot the course and execute it, he said. What else? Remote override, Johansen said. It's designed to get the ship back if we all die or something. They can take over Hermes from mission control. But we're right here, Lewis said. We can undo whatever they try, right? Not really, Johansen said. Remote override takes priority on over any onboard controls. It assumes there's been a disaster and the ship's control panels can't be trusted. Can you disable it? Lewis asked. Johansen pondered. Hermes has 4 redundant flight computers, each connected to 3 redundant comm systems. If any computer gets a signal from any comm system, mission control can take over. We can't shut out the comms. We'd lose telemetry and guidance. We can't shut down the computers. We need them to control the ship. I'll have to disable the remote override on each system. It's part of the OS. I'll have to jump over the code. Yes, I can do it. You're sure? Lewis asked. You can turn it off? Shouldn't be hard. Johansson said. It's an emergency feature, not a security program. It isn't protected against malicious code. Malicious code? Beck smiled. So you'll be a hacker? Yeah, Johansson smiled back. I guess I will. Alright, Lewis said. Looks like we can do it. But I don't want peer pressure forcing anyone into it. We'll wait for 24 hours. During that time, anyone can change their mind. Just talk to me in private or send me an email. I'll call it off and never tell anyone who it was. Lewis stayed behind as the rest filed out. Watching them leave, she saw they were smiling, all four of them. For the first time since leaving Mars, they were back to their old selves. She knew right then no one's mind would change. They were going back to Mars. Everyone knew Brendan Hutch would be running missions soon. He'd risen through NASA's ranks as fast as one could in the large inertia-bound organization. He was known as a diligent worker, and his skill and leadership qualities were plain to all his subordinates. Can't be me. Brendan was in charge of mission control from 1 a.m. to 9 a.m. every night. Every night? Continued excellent performance in this role would certainly get him a promotion. It had already been announced that he'd be backup flight controller for Ares 4, and he had a good shot at a top job for Ares 5. Flight Capcom, a voice said to his headset. Go, Capcom, Brendan responded. Though they were in the same room, radio protocol was observed at all times. Unscheduled status update from Hermes. With Hermes 90 light seconds away, back and forth voice communication was impractical. Other than media relations, Hermes would communicate via text until they were much closer. Roger, Brendan said. Read it out. I don't get it, Flight, came the confused reply. No real status, just a single sentence. What's it say? Message reads, Houston, be advised. Rich Purnell is a steely-eyed missile man. What? Brendan asked. Who the hell is Rich Purnell? Flight telemetry, another voice said. Go telemetry, Brendan said. Hermes is off course. Capcom, advise Hermes they're drifting. Telemetry, get me a correction vector ready. Negative, Flight telemetry interrupted. It's not drift. They adjusted course. Instrumentation uplink shows a deliberate 27.812 degree rotation. What the hell? Brendan stammered. Capcom asked them what the hell. Roger, Flight. Message sent. Minimum reply time 3 minutes 4 seconds. Telemetry, any chance this is instrumentation failure? Negative, Flight. We're tracking them with SATCOM. Observed position is consistent with the course change. Capcom, read your logs and see what the previous shift did. You see if a massive course change was ordered and somehow nobody told us. Roger, Flight. Guidance, Flight, Brendan said. Go, Flight, was the reply from the guidance controller. Work out how long they can stand this course before it's irreversible. At what point will they no longer be able to intercept Earth? Working on that now, Flight. And someone they find out who the hell Rich Purnell is. Mitch plopped down on the couch in Teddy's office. He put his feet up on the coffee table and smiled at Teddy. You wanted to see me? Why'd you do it, Mitch? Teddy demanded. Do what? You know exactly what I'm talking about. Oh, you mean the Hermes Mutiny? Mitch said innocently. You know, that'd make a good movie title. The Hermes Mutiny. Got a nice ring to it. We know you did it, Teddy said sternly. We don't know how, but we know you sent them the maneuver. So you don't have any proof. Teddy glared. No, not yet, but we're working on it. Really? Mitch said. Is that really the best use of our time? I mean, we have a near-Earth resupply to plan, not to mention figuring out how to get Watney to Schiaparelli. We've got a lot on our plates. You're damn right we have a lot on our plates, Teddy fumed. After your little stunt, we're committed to this thing. Alleged stunt, Mitch said, raising a finger. I suppose Annie will tell the media we decided to try this risky maneuver, and she'll leave out the mutiny part? Of course, Teddy said. Otherwise, we'd look like idiots. I guess everyone's off the hook then, Mitch smiled. Can't fire people for enacting NASA policy. Even Lewis is fine. What mutiny? And maybe Watney gets to live. Happy endings all around. Who you may have killed the whole crew, Teddy countered. Ever think of that? Whoever gave them the maneuver, Mitch said, only passed along information. Lewis made the decision to act on it. If she let emotion cloud her judgment, she'd be a bad commander, and she's not a bad commander. If I can ever prove it was you, I'll find a way to fire you for it, Teddy warned. Sure, Mitch shrugged. But if I wasn't willing to take risks to save lives, he thought for a moment. Well, I guess I'd just be you. Ooh, what a rich burn. Alright, I'm gonna stop here. My god, 1.5 hours? We're fucked. We're so fucked. 7:10. Holy shit, there's only 10 minutes. Hold on.